Start recording this meeting. Okay. So our very first question for you is, why did you choose to pursue a career in journalism and media?
So I can almost say that journalism and media is in my blood. My dad is actually a mass comm professor, and my mom was an English major. So it was like, you try not to be like your parents as much, but end up falling right back into it. So actually, I'll explain my intro to college, and then I'll backtrack. So when I first went to college, I went to UNC Charlotte on a teaching fellow scholarship, and so I was an English major with a minor in secondary education. But then I was modeling too, so I was going back and forth, and I was like, I can't like commit to being in North Carolina for the next 4 years. So I ended up changing it to journalism in that way. And it's funny because I told my dad, I was like, I'm not gonna major in journalism. It's not gonna be a mass comm thing for me. And I ended up right back where I started. But with journalism, I've always loved to write and I've always loved to storytell. So in high school, actually, I went to a magnet school. And so we had these things called CFLCs, which are kind of like mini majors. And I was in the journalism CFLC. So I was yearbook editor, copy editor, and then I was a newspaper copy editor. So I kind of feel like it was just written in the cards for me and just like looking up to my mom and dad in that way.
So it was destiny. You were destined to be a journalist.
It was completely destiny.
So our next question is, what inspired you to work specifically in women's sports?
Going back to when I was younger, I born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. So I got to look up to coaches like Coach K Yao, who actually unfortunately passed from breast cancer. And that's why we have the Play for K games. And then Coach Sylvia Hatchell. Both of them were within 15 minutes of my house growing up, and I got to see them in these head coaching positions as women. So back in '97, when I used to go to their games, I would just see these powerful women and seeing the players, and the players were so nice to me. And so that stuck with me. I had their player cards on my wall growing up. And when I got to high school, my best friend actually played on the varsity squad. And so I was like, I want to stay with them. So I would run around with the basketball team, even though I was a cheerleader, and just utilizing my journalism CFLC and telling her story there. And then it just followed me into college. And then I was a professional cheerleader at Madison Square Garden for the Knicks, the Rangers, and the Liberty, and noticed that my friends weren't getting coverage in the WNBA. And so this is the summertime where people have free time. You can go to an arena, especially the world's most famous arena. It's literally in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. Like, why not go to the game, tell their stories, and get the word out? These are the top 144 athletes in the whole world. And so I just started doing it on my own. I got my cell phone, met them at their away team hotel room, and recorded interviews and put them on YouTube. And I actually got discovered that way.
Wow, that is very inspiring already. So our next question is more about, what does success mean to you working in sports journalism? Do you feel like you've already hit success, or do you still have a long way to go?
I think it's really, really important to count your wins along the way. Even though I firmly believe in order to journey through life, you have to continuously be a student of the game, no matter what game you're playing. By game, I mean the industry that you enter. So I'm in sports journalism, so I'm constantly learning, constantly evolving. Because I do social media, there's always a new platform. And I'm like, God, TikTok, we didn't have to worry about back in 2019, but ever since everybody wanted to, come and join it in quarantine in 2020, even though it existed before, we didn't have to focus on that. But just constantly evolving and learning new sports that I can cover. So success to me means continuously learning and being open-minded to the different facets of your industry. Whenever you're complacent, whenever you're comfortable, that's a problem. That's not being successful. But it also means acknowledging what you've done so far. So just keep giving yourself a pat on the back, because you have to take care of yourself going through your professional life, as well as y'all are in school. So when you're in school, if you get that A on something, you might still be struggling trying to study for the final, but like right before you get that A and you're like, yes. And that's a little success along the way, and just count them all up so you can build towards that. But I would say I'm successful, but I haven't reached my peak success, because I don't think that peak exists, because you're going to keep pushing, you're going to keep growing, keep learning along the way.
Wow, that is also very ambitious. but it's like really good to have that and that kind of mindset. So we've got a question in the chat. Have you ever considered any other type of journalism besides sports journalism?
Yeah, so I have a modeling background. I would love to do entertainment. Entertainment would be really cool. And just like talking to the designers that I used to walk for could be cool too. I actually started off before I was actually employed as a sports journalist. I was a fashion journalist. So I was a fashion columnist for this magazine, New Mode magazine, and now it's the New Journal, NU. And I would go to fashion shows when I wasn't walking them, which is kind of like crazy because I would have to go to castings, then walk the shows and go backstage to the shows I wasn't walking and talk to the designers, but just not journaling, but like writing editorial pieces for the designer's vision, their collection. I critique their collections. I would just give my opinion on that. And then I would love to do like red carpet work more. I've done several, but I would love to, you know, venture outside of sports in that way, but intentionally always coming back to it, again, the women's side of things. So I would love to dabble in all that, but my actual like career is definitely sports journalism. I want to stay on that side because I have a job to do in telling their stories.
I'm gonna move on. Okay. So if more of our media covers women's sports, what positive impact do you think that'll have on our society?
My generation is still digesting the fact that women are supposed to be in the sports space. If you have media pushing girls and women forward and saying, hey, they're excellent at this and showcasing that, then there won't be that big discrepancy of like, should they be there? Should they not be there? I'm like, duh, we belong there. Title IX was in 1972. None of us on this call were born. Like we should be way past this by now, right? But if you have covered and showcase women doing excellent things, then it's way easier to justify why, even though that's not our position to. I've never been the type to be like, we need to prove what we're here. No, we're here and we're excellent at it. But just knowing that like, hey, I can scroll on Instagram or I can scroll through like the news app and see myself or, you know, like a reflection of myself in that. You guys have your favorite athletes. You should be able to see a reflection of yourself in those athletes, just like you see it in other facets of life. And once you can see it, you can be it. So more participation in sport will happen. It's so essential because you have to set the example for young girls growing up, and you also have to set the standard that women are in this space and we're excellent at it too.
I most definitely agree with that. Seeing representation of my race and my gender really helps me feel inspired and like use that as my role model. I mean, you're one of my role models.
Oh, thank you. We have a long way to go because we shouldn't be an anomaly, right? You shouldn't look to your left and your right and be the only one. That's like when you know there's a problem, when you're the only woman, when you're the only person of color, when you're the only one of your stature. You shouldn't be that way. And then it's funny because like as much as we were celebrating 2020, like first, I'm like, we are at 2020. Why are we still having first things? This is ridiculous. Like I said, Title IX was in 1972. Like how are we able to go that long and still have first in the sports space, to still have first in any landscape of anything? We've been around.
I most definitely agree with that. We've actually got a question in the chat, and this one's very interesting. Have you faced any discrimination and belittlement being a woman or POC in your industry? How did you clap back?
I clap back, punch in the face. No, I'm just kidding. No, okay, so I will frame it this way. In order to make noise in an oversaturated market, you have to be disruptive. You have to really find out what makes you stand out and attack that. So I know that I'm not your conventional journalist that's the most like refined, and I intentionally stay that way. Like, don't get it twisted, the degrees from NC State and Oxford, but like I'm still like, I want to be your friend when I communicate things with you. So I get a lot of pushback in my delivery, but I know that there's an audience for it. I know I'm doing something right because I can represent for those that want to see themselves in journalism, that want to see the less formal way of telling stories. And I've received a lot of flack for that. I've received a lot of flack for my hair, right? They're like, all right, can you just straighten it out? I was like, no. You know, like my clap back is still being authentically myself. I think that being audacious and standing in yourself as you is the clapback. You don't need extra words. You don't need extra, well, I said that. No, it just needs to be you being very, very confident in what you are, who you are, and how you want to present yourself. Because your brand is something you need to be able to upkeep this whole time, because you don't want to be drawn to somebody else. But just being able to stand in that and be yourself and be successful at it is a clapback in itself.
Wow. Okay. One of our other questions in the chat is, what obstacles did you face as a journalist?
I think that my obstacles are more internal than external, right? We as women, or girls and women, we have imposter syndrome. Like, should we be here? Should all these good things be happening to us? Should we be receiving all this spotlight? When you're looking at your male counterparts and you're like, they don't care. They literally will take what they can get. So that's been an obstacle, me knowing that I belong here, and knowing that this is on purpose because this is my journey. That's been a really big struggle for me. The pay gap is a really real thing, guys. I will give you this gem right now. When you enter the professional space, your first negotiation, your first salary negotiation is going to be your biggest one. So overshoot it, like literally overshoot it. Do not settle from being in like the average situation. Like if something is a job listing for like 85, like literally go over 150 and see where you land, literally. So that's been a thing. The pay gap has been a really, really big struggle, and resources. Because I intentionally stay on the women's side of things, it's really hard to find resources and people who want to invest in it, because they haven't seen it in the past be lucrative. But just convincing people like, hey, women's sports is on the rise, like we're the it thing. Nothing else, believe in the trend of the women. You know, like, nothing else. Believe in that trend. And so that's been really, really the challenging part for me. Just trying to get people to see my vision so they can put their money into it.
There you go. Oh, I'm sorry, my internet connection.
Okay.
But I was able to hear you. Was everyone else able to hear Arielle?
Yeah, you just glitched out for a moment.
Yeah, sorry. Our next question has to do with Highlight Her. So can you tell us more about Highlight Her? What does Highlight Her do? More on that.
So I told you guys how I was found online by Bleacher Report, and they were like, hey, we want you to start and build our women's platform. And so we named it Highlight Her, and we built it from the ground up. It's a community of sisterhood, basically. We just want to showcase women and girls of all ages, abilities, sports levels online, right? You see all these like posts with men's highlights and everything. We want the women to be highlighted. We also don't want to just focus on professional athletes. There are people like all of us that can do dope things, so why not be featured too? So that's what Highlighter is. It's a collection of that and storytelling. Storytelling is what I do best. So I sit down with my favorite athletes, the ones I love, the ones a lot of people love, and talk to them and really get the humanity out of them. Not necessarily a game breakdown, but like really their story. So we saw Caitlin Clark at Iowa, like killing it at the beginning of the season, and just being able to get the personality out of her has been really cool. We Dee Richards with her 2 puffballs, and we did hair with her, and it's just like things like that are fun pieces that you can relate to and like learn how to lay your edges as you're learning about Dee Richards and how she's the Defensive Player of the Year last season. It's really cool. So that's what the Highlighter is for. It's a space that we can share in our sisterhood and really uplift each other.
It's honestly just really great to have that kind of community, because I don't see that a lot. So, I mean, just like props to you for setting that community up.
Thank you.
So, our next question is also another interesting one. Do you think our society has some type of social stigma towards women in sports? And if so, what do you think is the reason behind that kind of mindset?
Yeah, I think that it comes from generational misogyny, where they don't think that women should be in sport. I think we're getting better because now we see it happen. A lot of people who have the most to say haven't seen women in these spaces. So I would challenge everybody to literally support women's sports so we can get rid of this stigma, and then convince your friends to have like a watch party. If you're in the city that has a WNBA team, go to it whenever COVID decides to rest. And so WNBA tickets are like $10, so why not? I'm in the New York market, so go down to Barclays and just chill and go in the space and just have fun, like make it a party. Like we spend money at the mall, we spend money wherever you guys spend money. I don't know what y'all do now, but like I used to spend money at like the movie theater and stuff like that. And so like instead of that, channel it to women's games. The soccer games are super fun too. Like I don't know, but like I didn't learn much about soccer until last season, but those games were super fun, just sitting there like kicking it with your friends. And that's a way to invest in women's sports. So yeah, we do have a stigma, but I think that it's getting better. And I think that it's our responsibility, even though Lord, the women carry all the plight of the world, but whatever, that's a story for a different day. But it's our responsibility to support our sisters in all this anyway.
I totally agree. You guys should like invest your time. I've been to a women's game and it's so fun. It's like the same as, men's sports too.
And when you get to college, a lot of times the women's games are really free and accessible too. So like go to those games, make some friends. It's like such a fun time, such a fun time.
Next, how do you think Highlight Her has impacted women's sports coverage? And also, going back to that social stigma, do you think that you've somehow lifted up that social stigma or gotten rid of it?
I think Highlight Her puts the pressure on other companies to have a women's platform, which is really cool because the numbers are reflective of there being a demand for it. So when there's a demand, supply happens, right? It's like literal supply and demand. So I think that Highlighter has shown like, hey, we're here, people are interested in it, so it needs to stay existent. And then what's most important, forget the numbers, forget the investors. Young girls can get excited about the potential of them being featured on it, right? They see their favorite athlete and they can be in the next post. And that's just really cool to me. Like if you're at home, especially during COVID times when we were all in quarantine, people were getting really crafty with stuff. And I had so much fun just like sifting through the submissions and seeing like people do cool things inside their house and make it happen because there weren't live sports. So it's kind of like these girls turned into these mini celebrities because they were just being bendy or doing trick shots or don't jump off a roof, but like jumping off roofs. That was cool. So yeah, that's why I think it gives great representation and it shows that we belong.
We've got a question in the chat. Who is the influential, whoops, sorry. Who is the influential / inspiring woman you have met in the sports world? And did she give you any advice?
So I'm lucky enough that the women's basketball community in as a whole is like a big family. So we all support each other. But when I was first starting out, LaChina Robinson. So LaChina, she's an ESPN analyst and she's from an ACC school. I went to an ACC school, I went to NC State, she went to Wake Forest. But I walked up to her in a draft many years ago and I was like, you're my goals personified, right? She looked at me and she was like, Ari, I already know who you are. Like, take down my number. And she didn't have to do that, right? She didn't have to offer me her number. But I ended up shadowing her that summer for color commentary at the Atlanta Dream. And it was really, really cool. But I look back into that moment, she didn't have to do that. She didn't have to extend herself to me. So what she taught me is that no matter what position you're in, no matter how much influence you have, no matter where you are in your career, you have to pay it forward because you can be opening up the door for somebody to like radiate their magic in the future. And if she didn't open up that door for me, I don't think that I would have been able to step through. So I'm not going to say it's easy because it wasn't, steps through so just accessibly and be able to meet the people that I've met in such a short time. By short time, I mean a decade, but in such a short time. So I learned from her. Her Instagram handle used to be Lives to Inspire. And it translated to me because she didn't have to extend herself to me. So now I have the obligation, the responsibility to extend myself to other people and really pay it forward and make it so that things are accessible for them and so they don't have to go through everything I went through.
We've got another question in the chat.
These questions.
How do you make connections in journalisms, or build a good network?
Mhm. So now you guys have a really, really unique situation because everybody's online because we're technically still supposed to be on lockdown because our country. Anyway, DM people, but have something to say. Just like you guys reached out to me cold, reach out to people cold. They'll respond or they'll point you in the direction where you can get linked with them. Don't be afraid of that. The worst thing that they can do is not read it. So you're not losing anything by reaching out to people, whoever you want to reach out to. And even if you think it's completely far-fetched, do it anyway. Really do it anyway. You guys have DMs on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. You can literally just DM them if you can't find their email. Also, start a vlog or start a publication on your own so you have some type of proof of content so that they know that they're not just wasting their time. Also, once you do make the connection, these are humans. Humans, we make relationships with humans. So don't just have it hey, can I have you for this? And then never speak to them again. I love sending handwritten notes because I think they mean more after something happens, but just follow up, stay really, really, really connected so it doesn't feel like a using relationship, and really make these relationships, because what happens when they start calling you sis and they start to be a part of the family, they take you to other family members, and then it just grows into this huge web of people that you have on your side. You're going to need a tribe, especially in sports marketing or sports journalism. So going forward, you'll be protected. So it's for your benefit, it's for their benefit, and y'all can learn from each other.
That was very insightful. I actually didn't know that. Unfortunately, we've only got 2 minutes, but I know, right? But we can extend it. If any of you guys want, we can go till maybe 4:45 because the next workshop is around 5 p.m. So, we'll just keep going. If you have to go, you can, but I want to stay in this amazing conversation. So, and totally unmute yourself, ask your questions, whatever you want to do.
Could I ask a quick question that I don't think you saw in the chat? I asked earlier, have you ever had to felt that you have to be more masculine in this field or kind of change your personality to fit in with your male counterparts?
So first of all, Kelsey, I love your look. Your curls are everything. But second of all, no. So wherever I can present myself fully, that's where I belong. The right people will align with you. To be completely candid, I present myself as this all the time. I'm in sweats and everything, granted, that might not be everybody's thing, that's cool. But the company that I work for has aligned with me and we meet halfway, and that's exactly what I can present. That wouldn't work for a lot of other companies. Same way with the crowds you keep. Not every man's going to understand you as, oh, that's my dog. Not every man is going to understand you being in the space, but that doesn't mean you have to change yourself for them. They'll either adjust or you'll just find somebody else. There are so many people in this world, you do not have to fit in with one group. That's just, you don't have to fit in. And then, like I said, to enter an oversaturated market anyway, you have to be disruptive. So if you're a hyper feminine, if you are, the girl from around the block, however you want to present yourself, present it, but be fully confident in it. Be fully confident in the way that you want to be received, and know that you're not going to be for everybody, and that's fine, but move accordingly, because if you're not this person's cup of tea, you will absolutely be this person's everything. So just don't ever change your personality, because then you're going to be exhausted trying to work to keep that up, and that's not what your job is. Your job is not to make men feel comfortable. It never is. It never will be. Your job is to report on sports, or your job is to do whatever you signed up to do, but it's definitely not making men feel comfortable.
One of our other questions is, how do you think social media has helped you expand Highlight Her?
So it's funny because the day one, when I was working on Highlight Her, my personal social media, I had 1,000 followers on Instagram. So I put on my, hey guys, follow this, and it got me to a different level. So social media allows you to brand yourself however you want. Even at the very, whatever you want online. So that's the beauty of it. Uh-oh, can you hear me? It says my internet connection is unstable.
I was able to
Okay,
kind
so
of
you
hear.
can be whoever you want. Ah, okay. So accordingly, however you can upkeep, and that's the power of social media. You don't have to follow a guideline that isn't what you want to do, um, because you craft it. Social media is your power. It's literally, you want your brand to be this, make content that reflects that, and that's basically do it.
Um,
I have a
okay.
quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
If you give advice to 13-year-old self, what would you tell her?
If I gave advice to 13-year-old me, or you, both of us, can
Yourself.
you hear me?
You.
I don't know okay, if I gave advice to 13-year-old me, I would tell me to not wait for my yes, to not wait to try to mold into something that everybody wants me to be. I also would tell myself that, hey, just because you didn't get this does not mean the world is over. So at times we're freaking out like, oh God, I didn't get this, or oh God, I think I failed at this. But there's always tomorrow. There's all life is going to continue to move. And things that you're so upset about today, next week won't matter, next year won't matter, next 5 years won't matter. I remember in high school, I had a lot of ups and downs, even though I would go back to high school in a heartbeat, but I had a lot of ups and downs, and I thought it was the end of the world, and I thought I would never be anything because of one mistake I did back in 10th grade. And yeah, and definitely in 8th grade. So like, just keep moving on and keep having your eye on yourself, and be very, very kind to yourself, nicer, and really shake it off and keep moving, because you're going to be excellent. You're going to be excellent in the future. You're excellent now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you actually be more specific? Like, because I do want to ask, I feel like lots of teenagers go through this where they put themselves down. So what do you think what specific things can we do to uplift ourselves? Think kind thoughts.
Even before that, keep a journal. Keep a journal and really document like everything that happened to you in that day, and make a little star at the top of the page of the day, so that whenever you're like really upset, go back to the stars and read the things that are really good. Also, I know who else does a vision board, but I have to do the every single year to make sure I write down my goals. So it's funny because I think day by day, you're living your life. You don't realize how many goals that you check off as you go along. So that's just a great tangible way to see, like, hey, these were my goals. I did them. That's super cool. Like, super cool that I was able to do this, that, and the third. Like, it was super cool how I was able to healthcare. It was I got an A on this. It was super cool how I was able to reach out to this. And that was my goal. So I got to reference that so I can just be fulfilled. Also, it's just a matter of changing your perspective and how you talk to yourself, because if you talk to yourself very rude, it's not going to stop anybody else from talking to yourself that rude, because you're used to hearing it, and it creates this toxicness for you. So talk to yourself really, really nice. Be like self, even if that's making affirmations like, I'm great, I'm beautiful, I'm equipped, I'm educated, I'm capable. Just say whatever you need to say to yourself, that whenever somebody says something that contrasts that, it's like, no, you're not going to talk to me like that. I don't talk to me like that. So you're definitely not going to talk to me like that. So things like that. But keep that journal, girl. Reference it. Reference it.
Have you all seen that like trend on TikTok where it's like, oh, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am rich, I am that. It's like, I love that trend so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly the mantra you need to say. Like, and then rich can be interpreted in any way, right? If you're rich in love, rich in joy, rich in wealth, like however you want to be rich, just really embrace those words. I know that like TikTok is a reflection of reality, right? We kind of do play off of things, but it's really our reality. So just take that TikTok and let that be your inspiration.
We only have like a few more questions, but I kind of wanted to ask about Well, I mean, we can totally open it up, but I kind of want to ask about I want to call these moments of magic. When you were hosting or like hosting an interview or a game and you're like talking to players, what do you love most about that? And what were some specific moments that kind of just felt magical to you?
It seems so small, but whenever a player says your name back to you in an interview, that's dope, right? It means they're really connected with you. That's why whenever I interview people now, I intentionally say their names as they're interviewing. It's that little moment of magic. It's really special. So I was interviewing Skylar Diggins-Smith, and she's plays for the Phoenix Mercury, really, really big, WNBA player. And when she said my name in the middle of it, yeah, I've known her for years, but just to know that we connected on that human level is also like very, very special. I love when I talk to mothers in the league that light up whenever I say their child's name. That's always really cool. Candace Parker is a really, really good example of that. She lights up whenever I talk about Layla, her child. Another more intense thing that was magical, but it was kind of depressing at the same time. Players trusting me with telling their stories, like Tiara Ruffin-Pratt. She plays for the LA Sparks now. She was telling me how on her draft night, her cousin actually died of police brutality. And for her to be that comfortable telling me her story was really, really cool. It was dope that she trusted me with that I wouldn't change her words, that I was able to really, really get the truth of that moment. And I just came back from Dallas for Athletes Unlimited Volleyball. And when volleyball players, after we done our content for the day, she was like, hey, can I talk to you? And just we had a one-on-one. And she talked to me about, her life and how she really, really wanted the willingness of these players to tell your story of whatever tragedy happened to you. That's just amazing in itself.
Can you tell us like more about your were you ever an athlete like growing up? And how was that experience if you were an athlete?
So I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but there's a whole competitive cheerleading world, and I was a competitive cheerleader from the 4 until college, and then I cheered in college. Go Pack, NC State. Y'all can have a chance to go to NC State to do it, especially if you cheer. And then I cheered professionally, and then I also played volleyball at an elite level. Was all and everything like that. So I was a middle hitter and blocker, and it was super cool. And I did Taekwondo. I'm actually a black belt, and I swim. And I was also 5'9" at age 11. So they were like, honey, probably wrong sport, go to cheerleading. So I went to cheerleading. And I think this sports are really, really to participate in because it teaches teamwork. You have a common goal, so you know how to goal set and reach that. And then discipline. That's the biggest principle of Taekwondo, self-discipline. So it taught me to control my emotions, project myself in a way that's healthy. And really like be on the self-defense. As women, it's sad. We have to know how to defend ourselves in actual life. And so that was a big thing too. People think that Taekwondo is just fighting. It's not fighting. It's literally self-defense and self-discipline. So learn that through sport.
Wow, thank you for that advice. That was actually very interesting. But for now, I think that we've gone through all of our questions. So if anyone in the audience has a question, go ahead and ask it right now. But I also want to ask about like your current projects. What are you doing right now with Highlight Her, and during COVID-19 as well?
So we've been restricted to do things virtually, but now we're finally getting approved for on location shoots. So I just got back from Dallas to do an Athletes Unlimited. And because I have a sports background, we did a content piece where I was actually working out and playing volleyball with the players as I'm talking to them. And he's a professional volleyball player, so you gotta hold your own. But it was really cool to be able to play volleyball again and really like play against them and just get that content out. So that's coming. We did sneaker shopping with a DJ, which is really, really cool. She's she's a DJ for the Dallas Mavericks. So she's the second Black woman DJ in the NBA. And she's also DJ 2 NBA All-Stars. And so just getting to know her story has been really cool. Then I'm about to go to NBA All-Star to talk to them about the women, because it's always my agenda to push the women's game forward, even if they are LeBron James. Like, you're gonna talk to me about womanhood. You're gonna advocate and be an ally. We're gonna push you to do that. So that's happening next week too. And the Olympics. Okay.
That sounds exciting. But
It is.
I think that concludes our workshop for today. Before any of you leave, can we all take a group photo? 'Cause I would love to have this moment as a memory. Okay.
The light, you see this big light? Have lights on deck, guys. So,
Right.
it's really dark in our room. Anyway, let's see.
Okay.
You gotta count me down, sis. Okay.
Okay. 10, 9. Oh, hold on. Wait. Give me 1 second, everyone.
Okay.
Just. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This countdown's taking forever. 9, 10. Okay. Okay. Now, can we do one with funny faces? You know,
Oh.
everybody's. Okay, here we go.
Can we
everyone.
count down from 3?
I will.
Three
I
is
will.
perfect.
Time.
3 is great. I love 3. Okay, great.
Okay, everybody, let's go. Come on. Be the funniest that you can. Okay, 3, 2, 1. I love Kelsey's face. Oh my God, so funny.
It's so bad. I do that every time I talk to someone.
Okay, so that is the end of our workshop today. Before anyone leaves, we do have a form that we'd like you all to fill out. So give me 1 second. Okay. But everyone can start heading out now. Please fill out that form.
Arielle, thank you so much for talking. You're one of the most inspirational people I've ever talked to. It was great chatting.
Well, thank you, Sophie. And thank you, everybody else who joined me today. You guys didn't have
Thank
to.
you.
You chose to be here, so it means a lot to me. Energy. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see you on the socials.
Yeah.
Bye.
Am I good to go?
Yes. But thank you for being here
Okay.
so much. Like, you know,
Thank you for having me.
you just set aside that time for us.
Reach out if you need anything, okay? Of course, reach out if you need anything from me, okay?
Okay. Bye, everybody.